Alright, the Clicker here with a not so quick video on Prot Warrior tanking in Classic Era. It does have some basic tanking tips. Even if you're playing a Druid or a Paladin, they could be useful to you. And they should work all the way through even TBCs somewhat, including the Dynamite. So hopefully the following video will give you some tips and tricks to help you along your tanking way. Alright, let's start off with the some recommended talents to have. Now obviously I run a deep prot, mostly because I do like shield slam, but it's really only any use on boss fight. Now I highly recommend the improved charge for the rage generated by your charge. Tactical mastery retains rage in between stancing. Anger management is a good one. I just do not pull quick enough for this to be optimal for me. Of course, any kind of rage build that you can get, you normally go with Unbridled Wrath, only a couple points, but it's more than nothing. And of course, improved Blood Rage. I do highly recommend at least 2 pieces of the Valor set, which I'm going to assume that you're probably in a lot of greens or still trying to get your BIS from dungeons. At least 2 pieces. 4 would be nice because that attack power is some good extra threat. And the chance on melee attack to heal you for 88 to 132 just doesn't trigger enough to really be a benefit. As far as the gear on my character during this run, I ended up having 5 pieces on. Normally I have another piece that I would wear. I just was lazy and didn't change it. And these are just some of the other items. All somewhat easy to obtain, which I have a lot of hit because I try to be prepared for threat on bosses. And this is what I consider my dungeon set. I have a raid gear, tier 1 on raid, but it costs too much to repair. Alright, so there's a few different methods of pulling mobs through dungeons. The first one that I normally recommend is going to be using your arrow, gun, or thrown items. And this right here allows you to pull things around corners and group them up at the end of the corners. Now if you have a mage or a hunter that's doing a lot of multi-shots, blizzards, and arcanes, this could be a little problematic. Just remember to always taunt the mob closest to them if it is above half health. Allowing your DPS to take a couple smacks as long as the healer can handle it is more than acceptable, because if you continuously have to run around dungeons, these can become very tedious and unfun. Next method is Dynamite. Easy Throw Dynamite 2 is a you do not need to be an engineer to use the item. I have had guildies recommend it and state that it is almost like a free taunt. It has always worked very well for me. And of course there's Old Faithful. Just charge in, rage up, and tab and sunder. Now this is generally a very basic method. As you can see with Blizzard, I'm still losing them, but with their health bars I'm really not too concerned. And I don't mind just running behind them and smacking them. Let the mage take a little bit of a butt whipping. Healer's got plenty of mana, and well, he'll survive. He'll be okay. Now go arms for the charge. Bam. Do a thunderclap. Go back to defensive. Now right there's 5 mobs. I should have used a demoralizing shout as well, which I used after going back into defensive. Could have used it earlier to make sure that I used enough rage not to lose any. And after that you pretty much just work on keeping aggro, or be like me and just let it beat on the mage. Now here's a very important aspect. I've shown it before, but if you notice the one on the right, as I lose aggro, he is at half health. I decide just to let him go. I know that DPS can handle him, and there he is dead. Everybody's still at good health and mana. Make sure that you mark the mob that you want dead. In this case, this fire mob is going to do the most damage to me out of these 3, due to me not having that much elemental resistance on me. Now of course I'm 60 in blues, so grabbing the boss with these is really no big deal, especially since he is mostly physical damage, which I'm well suited for. Alright, in packs of 5+, as you can see, I'm going to use my quick bow, rage when I get around the corner, Then continue building rage as such. I'm going to do a shout, and then just tab and go. Now these are non-elites, however these do bleeds and can be a little bit of a pain to your poor healer. So just continue doing your best. Alright, for a quick recap, for your pull options, if you have no rage and everything is on cooldown, or you're just going slow and steady, with your ranged weapon, line of sight, rage, and then sunder and tab through the target. If you have 2 to 4 mobs on the pull, battle stance, charge in, use thunderclap, swap to defensive stance, and sunder and tab. For 5+ mob pulls, battle stance, charge, and demo. Defensive stance, sunder and tab. Of course, use revenge as filler when available, and shield block as needed if you're taking a lot of damage. As far as marking through dungeon, generally I use the skull as my primary kill target. X if there's a second one that I'm going to need dead very quickly. I generally use yellow for patrols or any mobs that I'm trying to skip or want people to be cautious of. If I have a hunter in group, I generally use the blue square as the one I want them to try to freeze. And the purple I generally use for mobs I need sapped or feared or even banished. Now this is generally with warlocks and rogues, and in Classic Era it was very rare that I had both, especially both that could do CCing well. Orange and green I generally used for the second person if I had the competent group. Moon is the one I use for mages to sheep, and again if we had more than one mage, which was very common, green and orange would come into use. Now these right here is not what everyone uses them for. This is just my use for them. And if you're not used to tanking or not used to marking, this right here could be a good starting point. However, if your guild that you run with does a specific method, you may want to make note and use it the same way. It makes runs a lot smoother and quicker. Alright, so that's the video. For one last little quick set of tips, agility increases your dodge and armor, and strength increases your parry, and if I'm not mistaken, also your block. I hope that you find this video helpful. Please drop a like if it did help you, and I will see you later, and take it easy.